Hey, hello guys, welcome back to the channel and part 4 of text classification use case, that is the news classification. So till now we have collected the data, we have explored the entire data with the help of various graphs and charts. Then we cleaned the entire data. Then we generated features from that data, and after that we implemented some models without doing any fine tuning of them. Today's agenda is to perform hyperparameter tuning on the algorithms that we implemented, get to know what the typical hyperparameter tuning means in an overview fashion, and then the most important part that I'm going to cover is the power of doc2vec, that is it is a probabilistic word embedding technique. So we will see that as well. So let's start with this session, and that is the final part of this use case, the part 4. So I'll give you a gist about what hyperparameter tuning is. So let's start. Okay, so when creating any machine learning model, we will be presented with design choices so as to how to define our model architecture. There are often times we don't immediately know what the optimal model architecture should be for a given particular model, and thus we would like to be able to explore a range of possibilities from it. In true machine learning fashion, we will identify the machine, we will ideally ask the machine to perform this exploration and select the optimal architecture automatically. Parameters which define the model architecture are referred to as hyperparameters. I'll repeat it once again. The parameters which define the model architecture are referred to as hyperparameters, and thus this process of searching for the ideal model architecture is referred to as hyperparameter tuning. I'll repeat it. This process of searching for the ideal model architecture is referred to as hyperparameter tuning. So the hyperparameter tuning methods relate to how we sample possible model architecture candidates from the space of possible hyperparameter values. This is often referred as searching the hyperparameter space to find or to calculate the optimum values. Now let's see what all types of hyperparameter tuning we have, or what all techniques or methods that we got. So the first method is manual searching. Now in manual, we select hyperparameters based on intuition or experience or just by guessing. Then we train the model with these hyperparameters and score on the validation data. Then we will repeat this entire process until obviously we run out of patience or are satisfied with the results that we have got. Now instead of doing manually, there is an alternate method which is called as grid search. Now what happens in grid search is we set up a grid of hyperparameter values, and for each combination we train the model and score on the validation data. In this approach, every single combination of hyperparameter values is tried, which can be very inefficient. So each and every permutation combination of the hyperparameters will be taken out, which we specify in that grid, and for all the possible permutation combinations, separate models will be developed, and the best performing models parameters will be taken out. Hence this is an inefficient method, but still it works. The third method, or the third technique for hyperparameter tuning, is random search. So what happens in the random search is we set up a grid of hyperparameter values and select random combinations to train the model and score. The number of search iterations is set on time or resources. Random search differs from that of the grid search is that we no longer provide a discrete set of values to explore for each hyperparameter. Rather, we provide a statistical distribution for each hyperparameter from which the values may be randomly sampled. The final one that we have got is the final type, or the final method is automated hyperparameter tuning. Now this kind of techniques use methods such as gradient descent, or evolutionary algorithms, or Bayesian optimization techniques. To conduct this is done so as to conduct a guided search to find the best possible hyperparameters. So this is a total gist about hyperparameter tuning. So as this video is focused more on implementation stuff, I will not go in each and every method in depth. So if you want me to upload more videos relating to it, please ping on the comment section and I'll upload it for you. Okay, now let's move, and now let's continue to our work of implementation part. So till now we have done predictions by using random forest. So in here last time I implemented with number of estimators equal to 500. Let's delete this stuff because we have not yet done hyperparameter tuning, and let just set random state equal to 1 to reproduce results. And let's run this. So we are getting 91% accuracy for random forest. For logistic regression without hyperparameter tuning, we are getting 94%. For k nearest neighbor, 91%. For decision tree, 77%. For naive Bayes, 88%. So till now, our best classification algorithm is logistic regression for this News classification dataset. Now let's do hyperparameter tuning for random forest first. So first we will import grid search. So first we will import grid search from sklearn's model selection. So I'm just writing the title to make it more readable. Okay, so as I said earlier, we will import grid search first. Next, we will first define a grid for n estimators. So n estimator means the number of trees that your random forest will be building. So we will define as 100, 300, 500, 800 to 2. Okay, let's stick with 800 for now, and let's see for let's just stretch this number to 1200 as well. So it means that it will build models for an estimator 100, 300, 500, 800 and so on. Next, the next hyperparameter that we are going to tune is max depth. So max depth is nothing but the maximum depth of the tree. So here I am specifying values such as 5, 8, 15, 25 and 30. The next hyperparameter that we are going to tune for random forest is minimum sample split. This minimum sample splits it depicts the minimum number of samples which is required to split an internal node. So these numbers are purely from intuition basis. You can play with these numbers. So as my experience goes, I am using this numbers. You can try your own numbers as well, and if you are finding more efficient numbers for this grid search, you can comment down in the comment section. Then next is the minimum sample sleeve. This parameter means that the minimum number of samples which are required to be at a leaf node, then only it will proceed. Now what will happen is it will take all the permutation combinations of these values, and it will create n number of models. Like for example, if only I have specified n estimators, suppose I am deleting this, then it will build models with then it will build five random forest models with by taking first n estimator 100, then 300, then 500, then 800 and then 1200. As in now if we expand this number of parameters, now it will build models for n estimator 100, then max depth 5, 2 and this, then it will build for 100 and 8 and 5 and 2 and so on. Then it will build for n estimator 100, then max depth 15, minimum sample split. So it will take all the possible combinations of these parameters, and then it will build 2 to the power n models. That's why it will take some time to run all these to run all these models and get the best parameters out of it. Now I'm just specifying. Now I'm just building a dict which is called as hyperf, and I'm specifying key values in that, so that I can readily input this to grid search CV, that is cross validation function. So now our hyperf dict is ready. Let's just print what this hyperf actually is. And now let's run this block of code. Now if you all are saying this is just a simple dictionary with keys are n estimators, max depth, max sample split and so on. Now it will get all the combinations of models, and number of there will be huge number of combinations. There will be huge number of combinations for all these kinds of hyperparameters, and it will run all those models. So we will now actually build our grid search CV models. So we will be using the grid search CV method that we already imported. We will just input the model as an argument. Now this model is nothing but the object of random forest classifier. Then the second argument we will be providing is the dictionary, that is hyperf, and the third is cross validation equal to 3. And then I'll just set verbose to be 1. And then I'll just run this one. So in order to get now we have defined the entire architecture of the architecture of grid search. Now let's try to fit it. Let's try to train all these models. So we now have features train, which is the TF-IDF output, and the labels train, that is the label encoding output of categorical variable. If you have not seen my previous videos, if you have seen previous videos, you might have known what the features train actually means. Now we are actually executing this grid search for random forest classifier. So now it is saying that total 1500 feats. So the total number of models that we are building 1500. So out of this 1500, it will pick up the best performing models hyperparameters. In this way, the hyperparameter for each and every algorithm will work. It depends upon how many number of parameters you want to hypertune or hypertune or just fine tune. So now it is saying that it is using backend sequential. It is using sequential backend with only one concurrent workers. It means that it is only using one core of the CPU. Let's see. Let's stop this code and write here n jobs equal to 1. Now it will utilize resources efficiently, as maximum as it will. So after specifying n jobs equal to 1, we are now seeing with 6 concurrent workers. So 6 models will be built independently. Now let's wait till it's get completed. In my PC, it will take around I don't know 4 to 5 minutes as such, but it depends on system to system. In my old laptop it took about 30 minutes or so. Let's see how much time it takes now. So the main aim of this entire part 4 is to bump up the accuracy or to increase the accuracy. So the highest accuracy that we got till now is 94% without hyperparameter fine tuning for logistic regression. Now let's see if we can get past 95% accuracy for this. So why we are using accuracy metric in this project is because the target or the response variable is basically well balanced, more or less well balanced. But during our last or the first use case in employee attrition prediction, we used precision recall and F1 score because the classes were heavily imbalanced. So let's wait for a couple of more minutes and then we might see the results. So if you have got any question, or if you want me to upload more videos of a particular topic, please comment down in the comment section. If you are not getting the data for this project, please see in the description. I have added my GitHub link wherein you can download this code as well as the data associated to it. So it has done till now 788 tasks and around 2.5 minutes is already passed. Let's wait for another couple of minutes. Let's hope it works. Still a halfway to go, I think. So it is now building all the combinations. It is building model for all the combinations of the hyperparameters grids that are provided, like an estimate. There are more such hyperparameters that can be tuned, like minimum weight fraction leaf, or minimum samples leaf, or maximum features, or max leaf node. So there are a number of parameters. These all you can find in sklearn's random forest documentation. If someone knows the actual backend working of random forest, then understanding this parameters is very easy for them. But if you don't know the actual working of backend of hyperparameter and the transition from decision tree to bagging to random forest, then it might be a little bit tough. But if you have any doubt, you can ask directly in the comment section. So it has completed 1238. I think only 300 tasks are remaining. Let's see. So before hyperparameter fine tuning, we were getting about 91% accuracy. Now let's see what we get after hyperparameter tuning. Okay, so now we are seeing that all the tasks are completed. Now let's extract the best parameters from it. So we have got our best F, and now we are so with this best F, I'll be extracting the best performing hyperparameters with the help of this statement, like best F dot best underscore params underscore. So it is recommending me to use max depth 30, minimum samples leaf as 1, and minimum sample split to be 5, and number of estimators to be 800. Now let's again train the random forest with this fine-tuned parameters. Now I am scrolling up. I'll be copying and pasting this code. So I'm copying and pasting. So if you are new to this, or if you are new to sklearn, machine learning, and so, I recommend you not to copy paste the code. I recommend you to write the code, even if it is repeating. I recommend you to write the entire code. So I'll just change some features. So I will stick with random state 1, and I will now add these parameters here. So the first parameter is max depth is 30. Then min samples live to be 1. I'm just copying and pasting, and okay, min samples to be 1. So these are the parameters which are extracted from the grid search. Then n number of estimators to be 800. I think that's it. So we can now run this entire model, and then let's see what results we are getting. So earlier we were getting about 91%. Now we are getting 93%. So we are getting an increase in 2% accuracy. So for random forest, the hyperparameter fine tuning is working. Now let's check for the next model, the logistic regression one. In logistic regression we will fine tune hyperparameters like the C and the P value. So again, I'll be defining the hyperparameters grid. So the C value is called as inverse regularization strength. So if you don't know what regularization is in regression, just to give a simpler form of that, it is just applying a penalty to increasing the magnitude of parameter values in order to reduce overfitting. So regularization in layman terms is used to reduce overfitting problem by doing some penalty on increasing the magnitude of parameter values, like the coefficient one. So in this there is some we have got two types of regularization techniques. First is L1 regularization and L2. So we will be using both for this grid, and it will suggest us which of the penalty should be better for our linear logistic regression. Then simply the same thing again. I'll call the grid search CV. Now the model will be my logistic regression one. The first parameter will be the model. The second parameter will be the parameters grid, which we want to fine tune. The third model will be the cross validation. The next is the verbose equal to 1, so that we can get the status of the output. Then again the best fit. Now we have to fit this entire setup. In this fitting, the first parameters will be the training features. Sorry for that. Then the corresponding labels, or the true value or the ground truth for this. Now let's run this block of code. Within seconds it has done. So now it is giving me 18 such jobs have been performed, or 18 models are already trained of random forest. So it has tried. The first model will be with C equal to 0.1 and penalty L1, then C equal to 0.1, then penalty L2, then C equal to 0.1, that's it. Then C equal to 0.01, penalty L1, and so on. So all these combinations will be treated. Now let's extract the best parameters out of it. In order to extract best parameters, you all know what to do. Best step dot get best underscore params underscore. So it is suggesting us to use C value to be 1 and penalty to be L2. Let's again get the code of linear regression and plug this logistic regression, then plug these values, the fine-tuned values to this, or fine-tuned hyperparameter values to this. So those guys who don't know the distinction or the differentiation between hyperparameter and learnable parameters, in layman terms, what I can say is, to simplify it, those parameters which we write during coding or which are defined during compile time are called as hyperparameters, and those parameters which the model learns is called as learnable parameters. For example, my hyperparameter can be number of estimators in decision tree, whereas my learnable parameters can be the coefficients of linear regression or the weights and biases of artificial neural networks and so on. So I have plugged in the best possible parameters for logistic regression, and let's try to run this code. It is showing me an error because I have used the single quotes for penalty as well. I'll run this one. It is giving me 94.2. So there is no significant increase as well as there is no significant decrease as well. So the best possible performance that we can extract from logistic regression is 94% by using TF-IDF as features of our model. Now let's tune. Let's take the next algorithm, which is k nearest neighbors. So we will tune hyperparameter for k nearest neighbors. So in k nearest neighbors, we will be tuning parameters like the n number of neighbors and the p-values. Now those who don't know the k nearest neighbor working, k nearest neighbor, I can say it is one of the simplest algorithm in machine learning. So if you want me to upload an example of k nearest neighbor, please ping in the comment section. So whichever topic you want related to artificial intelligence, machine learning, data science and all, ping me in the comment section. I will present you in such a way, in a more simplistic way, which you guys can grasp easily and which is understandable very quickly. So I am repeating the steps again. I have defined a params underscore knn grid. Again, the gridf will consist the object of grid search CV. The first parameter will I am passing is the model. Now I am calling the k nearest neighbor models. The k nearest classifier. The first one is model. The second is the grid search parameters. Then cross validation to be 3. Or you can give cross validation 5, 10 as well. So if you don't know what cross validation is, please ping me so I can explain it to you in some another video. Then again, I will try to fit this model, the grid search architecture. The first parameter, as you all know, the feature strain. The second will be the label strain. Let's try to run this block. It might not take up, so it is saying that it is running for 63 search models of KNN. It is still doing, yeah, now it has done in 9.3 seconds. Now let's extract the best possible hyperparameters for k nearest neighbors. So it is suggesting us to use k nearest neighbor to be 7 and the value for p is 2. Let's try this value for k nearest neighbors and let's see what we get. So the accuracy that we are getting now is of testing accuracy. We are not fine tuning for training accuracy, because obviously the training accuracy will be more as compared with testing accuracy, but we don't want it to overfit as well. So for k nearest neighbors, we are getting 91.6%, and let's see what we got before hyperparameter tuning. So before we were getting 91.2, so I think it is 0.5% increase in the accuracy. So for k nearest neighbor also, we are getting benefited by hyperparameter tuning. Now let's in this way you can do hyperparameter tuning for decision tree as well as for naive Bayes, but first you need to study what these parameters actually mean to the model. Okay, now let's move to the next section of this model. Now in the next part, what we will do is we will actually replace the TF-IDF vectorizer with something called as doc2vec, and let's see how this helps us to get more accuracy and why it is so. So now let me give a quick introduction about doc2vec. So I'll just write doc2vec here. So you all know that numeric representation of text document or numeric representation of any words in a text document is a challenging task in machine learning, and there are various different ways to create numerical features such as TF-IDF, count vectorizer, etc. So in the first part, in the first half of this use case solving, we used TF-IDF vectorizer. Now my aim is to not go in detail what are the advantages of one over other and which is the best one to use. There are a lot of good resources that are already available to read, but my focus here is to show the power of doc2vec in solving this problem. So before going into doc2vec, we must first know what word2vec is. So word2vec is nothing but it is a model which is used to create word embeddings. Now what I mean word embeddings here is a simple word is represented with n-dimensional vector, or a simple word is represented with n-dimensional array. Okay, array of integer, array of numbers. So it takes input a large corpus of text and produces a vector space typically of several hundred dimensions. Okay, why we require this is because the words like bank, money, accounts, they are often used in similar situations. Now with similar surrounding words like dollar, loan or credit, and according to the word2vec, they will therefore share similar representations. From this assumption, word2vec can be used to find relations between words and words in a data set, and also compute the similarity between multiple words, or it can be used in text classification or text clustering. Now word2vec will give us vector representation of a single word, but it will not give us vector representation of entire sentence. To find out the vector representation of entire sentence, in our case entire news article, we will be using doc2vec. So doc2vec, I can say it is an extension for word2vec. So the objective of doc2vec is to create numerical representation of sentence or paragraphs or articles or documents like it. Yeah. So what doc2vec does is it computes a feature vector for every document in the vectors. So suppose I want my sentence to be represented with 300 length feature. So each and every sentence will be represented with an array, or I can say a list consisting of 300 numerical values. So I'll not go in much depth of this, but you all should know this is trained with the help of a shallow neural network. If you want me to upload a simplistic example, just ping in the comment section. I will upload a nice use case, a nice practical implementation, and also I will solve that using pen and paper. Okay, so please ping me if you want such videos related to Word2Vec, Doc2Vec, LSTMs, RNNs, etc. Let's jump directly to implementation of Doc2Vec. So we will write it. So we will start it totally from scratch. As you remembered, we stored our processed file in name called as, I think, BBC News process. So we will import that one. So first we will import the processed file. So I'm taking a new what I can say, a variable which is called as data underscore processed, and I'll just import the file. So pd.read underscore csv. In that I'll write bbc underscore news underscore processed dot csv. So I think in the second part, or in the second part, I think we saved this file. Now let's see what all columns does it have. So it has article ID. You can ignore unnamed 0 for now. Article ID, text category, news length, and so on. Text pass. So the columns that we need are the columns in which we are interested is text parsed and category target, because text parse contains the cleaned text and category target contains the label encoding of the category attribute. Now let's define a variable wherein we can get all these two columns. So so just for simplicity, I am defining another data frame. And now I'll be taking columns like text parsed and the category target column from the data process to this the new variable data. And let's also print afterwards what this data actually contains. Okay, it is showing an error. Let's see why we are getting this error. I think the column name is not properly written. Oh, okay. The variable was not properly written. Okay, now let's print head for this. Let's print the first 5 data points for this data. Okay, now as you can see in the text, we got the process text, and in the category we have got the label encoding part of the category variable. Now let's move ahead in solving the Doc2Vec problem. So for this we will require a package Gensim. So if you have not installed this package, please install it. So from Gensim.models we will import Doc2Vec. Then we require something called as tagged document from Gensim. So if you want me to actually go through the entire tutorial of Gensim, please let me know in the comment section. Okay, next is we will define a function. So now what we are doing is we want to convert the training data and the testing data in the format that the Gensim expects. So we are now converting the data to the Gensim format. So that's why we are writing a function here. So let's say the function is label underscore sentences. So just be with me. After getting the output of this sentence, you will get to know why we are doing this, if you have not understood this. The corpus is news article. The label type is whether it is train or test. So there can be n number of articles for training, n number of articles for testing, but which one of it is train and which one of it is test, the label type will show us. So we will be treating the corpus. Now this corpus is a list of training articles as well as testing articles. So here we will be using the tag document method, which we just imported from Gensim. So let's move ahead. So now what we have done is we will take list of training sample, list of testing samples, and then we will label them like what I can say, the training article underscore the type of that. Like suppose the training article is high, then high space train underscore 1, that will be my label, that will the label sentence will do. So the overview of label sentences, it will convert the data in the format which the Gensim expects. So let us split up the data in 80-20. Now let's see the shape of this training data and testing data. So let's see how many data points I have got for training and how many data points I have got for testing. Simply by using xtrain.shape we will get it. So there are 1192 documents for training, and let's see for testing as well. So we have got about 298 documents for testing. Now here as we can see, we now want to convert this 1192 into features. So that's why we are using doc2vec. So features in the sense in numerical representation. Now let's call the function that we just made. First we will combine the data. So I'll take a variable called as so I'll override the xtrain variable and I'll call the label sentences. So first for this label sentences I have given xtrain, which is nothing but an array of 1192 data points, 1192 news articles. If I just print the first, let's say, first 5 documents from this, I'll get each and every news article. So we want this text to be converted to this process text to be converted to features, or I can say in simple terms to numbers. So that's why in order to do that, first we need to convert this data in a format which the Gensim expects it. That's why we have written these label sentences. So let's run this for xtrain. Now let's see what we get output for this. So we will just print the first few sentences. I think it is much more, it is not readable. Let's print first. Let's print, let's say, the first element for this. So the first news article, it is in this form. All the vocabulary it has. Okay, now so in these words, all the vocabulary right from starting to ending it has for that kind of document. Then the number of tags it means either train or it can be either test. Now it is the first sample, that's why it has given train underscore 0. If it is second, then it will give train underscore 1, and so on and so forth. Similarly, we will do for testing as well. So in this way, this is the format which the Gensim expects. So now in similar way, you can also print xtest. Now what we want is, we will append or we will combine the data xtrain and xtest, so that we can get numerical representation of all those features, all those news articles. So now my all data consists of all the data included in or contained in xtrain and xtest. Now let's actually train a model. So model name is model underscore DBOW, that is document bag of words. If you do not know what is bag of word, what is skipgram and so on, just ping me in the comment section. I will make another videos for that. So here the most important part is the vector size. We have specified vector size it to be 300. It means each and every sentence or each and every article will be represented with a 3-dimensional vector or a 3-dimensional feature. And now I am setting all those hyperparameters here. Now if you want me to explain what these hyperparameter mean, I can explain it with the help of an example. If you want me to explain, I can upload another special video for the same. So just be with me now and let's see how it works. So now in the next step, in this step, what we have done is we have called the build vocabulary function from model underscore DBOW, and we are building vocabulary for entire data. So vocabulary here means number of unique words contained in entire data. Now for each epoch in the range, so we will run this model for 30 epochs. You can run it for 40, 50 or so on. It all depends on you. If you got some efficient numbers or efficient hyperparameters, you can ping me in the ping in this comment section of this video. So now I'm using this utils method just to shuffle the entire data. So the data that we have is all data, and the next parameter will be the total number of examples. So total underscore examples. We have got total number of examples is length of all data, that is the training data plus testing data. So we will build this model for both training and testing, but it will be used separately for training and testing phase. So the alpha value that I am specifying is 0.002, and then the minimum alpha, I'll set it to be the alpha value. Now let's run this model. Now let's train this Doc2Vec model. Okay, it is showing me some error. It has no attribute build underscore vocabulary. So I have committed a silly mistake. It is not build underscore VOC. It is build underscore VOCAB, that is vocab. Now we are getting another example, that is unexpected keyword argument total example. So total, it is not total example, it total examples. Yeah, again we are getting an error. It has no attribute alpha, so a spelling error. It is alpha, not alpha. Okay. Now the model is training. It will take some time to train. So this alpha that we are using is it is the initial learning rate. Okay, the initial learning rate is the alpha value that we are specifying it to be 0.002, and the minimum alpha is the learning rate which will linearly drop to the initial learning rate that will linearly drop to minimum alpha as the training progresses. So here we are using some dynamic type of learning rate. So alpha is our initial learning rate, and minimum alpha, it is a learning rate will linearly drop to min alpha, that is the initial learning rate that we specified the alpha. Alpha will linearly drop to min alpha as the training progresses, because obviously during the initial stages we will take bigger steps, and during the final stages of the training we will take baby steps, so that it will not overshoot the global or the local minimum point. So I think it's completed. Now the model is totally done. Now what we need to do is we need to import vectors from that model. So there has to be certain way to extract the vectors from this model. In order to extract vectors from this model, now our model is saved in model underscore DBOW. Yeah, model underscore DBOW. Now we want to extract the model underscore DBW's vectors to convert our news articles to vectorial representation. For that we need to write a function. We need to write another function, the final function of this use case. So simply I'll give it a name as get vectors. The first parameter that it will expect is model. The second one is the corpus size. The third one is the vector size. We all know that vector size was 300 as we specified. And the final is vectors type. Vectors type in the sense ki whether it is from training dataset or testing dataset. Now the vectors will be, first let's initialize everything with zeros. So the vectors will be np.zeros, and first argument is corpus size. So corpus size will be 1192 for training, and I think 198 for testing. So the dimensionality will be 298 for testing. So 298 for testing and 1192 for training. So the dimensionality of these vectors for training will be 1192, 300. The dimensionality for testing will be 298, 300. Now let's extract the actual vectors. So the corpus size for training will be 1192. For training, this loop will run for 1192 times, and for testing it will run for 298 times. So in prefix we are storing the vector types plus underscore str of I, like we did in the above method as well. So we will be storing the entire in this vectors variable. So vectors of I means vectors of each and every article equal to model dot vex, and then prefix in the sense ki whether it is train 0, train 1, train 2, test 0, train test 1, test 2, and so it will. Now let's see what we have got. So let's first print the size. So before that we will we have to call that get vectors. So the first argument is the model that we just learned, model underscore dbow. The second argument will be the length of the training data, which is I think 1992. Then the third is vector size. Vector size we all know it is 300, and the vector type is train. So now what will happen is, if we call these vectors, it will be 1192, 300. So this will consist of all zeros, but dimension 1190, 1192, 300. Now after running this function which I have just highlighted, what it will give, the prefix will be vector type plus str of I. Vector type is train underscore 0, train underscore 1. So it will extract from the above model train underscore 0. So each and every news article is now been treated as an ID with train underscore 0, train underscore 1, train underscore 2 up till train underscore 1191, because we are starting it from 0. That's it. Okay. So let's just do for the testing vectors as well, the features of testing data set. So the same way, the first argument will be model, the second will be length of the X test, the third will be the corpus size, the fourth will be, instead of train we will write test. Now let's run this. Now in this train vectors dbow, let's just print straight away the shape of this. It consists of the features of the training data. So let's print shape. Now I expected it gave us 1192, 300. Now let's print some let's say initial values of it. The first five values. The first five values will be this one. Yeah. So the first news article will be represented by this vector. This vector length is 300. The second news article, this one, it is now represented with these vectors, or this vectorial representation, or this array consisting numbers, and the length or the dimensionality is 300. So in this way we are generating the new vectorial representation of news articles. Now let's run the model. So for now I will be running logistic regression, because logistic regression gave us better results earlier of 94%. Let's see by using doc2vec whether we can increase the accuracy or not. You can try on your own the decision tree, random forest, naive Bayes, and so on. And also you can try hyperparameters on your own for this. But let's just see for logistic regression what it gives. Whether we can surpass the 94%, or whether we can get any increase, or is it increasing or decreasing. Let's see what happens. So model.fit, instead of the labels train, the features train, we are now giving train underscore features underscore dbow and y underscore train. And now I will fit the I've already fitted the model. Now for prediction I will give the test vectors, and then the y test, that is the ground truth. Then I'll simply print the accuracy and the classification report for the logistic regression. Here I am not copying pasting anything, just to show you the final time how we are doing this. So the accuracy score will be the predictions of the model and the ground truth. The ground truth is stored in white as the actual values. Then let's just get the classification report. So now we are getting about 95% accuracy for this. So we have surpassed the 95% mark for this kind of problem. So that's it for this kind of use case. So we have successfully got 95% accuracy, but still there is a scope for improvement in this. We can use LSTMs as well as RNNs and so on. So let's see if we can, by my intuition, I will perform manual hyperparameter tuning for this. Let's see what happens. So let's see n number of jobs equal to 1. I think it won't have an effect. Let n number of jobs. Let's see the C value. Let's set the C value, which is 10 to the power minus 5. 10 to the power 5. Let's run for this. Okay, it is showing me it is not defined. Okay, so let's run this. Now we are getting an error. Okay, a silly mistake. It should be 1E5. Okay, now we are getting about 95.9%. That is about 96% accuracy. So there is a bump from 94 to 96, a 2% increasing accuracy. So it's okay. We are getting greater than 95%, which is a good thing. But this can also be further improved by using LSTM and RNN. So if you want me to apply LSTM on this kind of on this kind of use case, please ping me in the comment section and I will show you how to implement LSTM from scratch for this kind of test classification problem. So my intuition for this entire use case was to give you a general idea about how to solve any text classification problem, so you can apply this technique to solve any text classification problem. Just remind, your approach should be clear and ambiguous. Your approach should be clear and unambiguous. And you should have a clear vision of why you are solving the entire problem and all. So let's meet you guys in the next video. If you like next use case solving video. If you guys like this video, please give this video a like, comment, obviously subscribe this channel, and also share these videos to many other data science aspirants. Okay, thank you guys. Bye.